Right, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Training for Hiking Live Q&A. My name is Rowan Smith, and today I'm answering your questions about training for hiking. Now, what we've got today is we've got two questions that have been sent through prior to this, which I'm going to be covering, plus any live questions that may come through. Now, we're going to be starting off by covering some compression garments for hikers and talking a little bit about that subject, and also talking a little bit around pacing. So, to get started, let's get into it. And let's talk about compression garments for hikers. Now, this question came through the other day. Hi, Rowan, just a query re the use of compression garments. Is it better to use them while hiking or while recovery and during sleep with them? Now, when it comes down to this, if you haven't heard about this topic before, I'm a big fan of sports compression garments for hikers. And I think sports compression tights or socks can be a really, really good addition to a hiker's arsenal. And if you haven't seen them before, they're kind of like this picture here. The color's a little bit whack, but yeah, they're just tight compression garments which we wear. The way I like them, and the reason I like them for hikers specifically, is I like them for recovery. And the whole idea around them when it comes down to recovery is ultimately when we're hiking, when we're exercising, when we're just moving around, our blood is pumping around. Our blood, we've got lots and lots of circulation, and the blood is just pumping around, doing a lot. Sometimes, or typically, when we stop hiking and exercising, our circulation will just slow down a little bit. It's always going to be working because our blood doesn't stop, but circulation will slow down a little bit. Now, the tricky thing here is if we've been working hard or we've been exercising hard, sometimes there's just certain things in the body which, the body just leads to a little bit of soreness, leads to a little bit of discomfort. And having extra circulation can sometimes help just flush that out and help it feel a little bit more comfortable. It's similar to like the whole idea of active recovery or cooling down, where essentially we finish exercise and we have something nice and gentle, which we work through for a little while to help everything sort of calm down. Um, that's kind of similar thing for sports compression garments, but it's just a way of doing it passively. Using sports compression garments, that can be a really, really simple way of just aiding circulation when we're not actually active, when we're just sitting around, when we're lying around, we're not really doing anything. For a hiker, when this comes into recovery, this just can be really, really useful just to help the legs feel good, whether it's at the end of the day or waking up the next day, having the legs feel a bit more fresh, reducing sore muscles and reducing some of the achiness, and potentially aiding your recovery. So you can wake up the next day and actually be able to perform, a little bit better than if you hadn't. On top of that, sports compression garments can be quite nice for people who have sore or achy joints after hikers. So, quite often with my knee pain clients, I'll have people get these tights if they have them, just wear them for a couple of hours after hiking. And sometimes just having a little bit extra pressure can help relieve some of that discomfort if they're dealing with it and help, again, make them wake up pretty fresh. Now, the way I typically recommend hikers use them is I recommend wearing them for a few hours while you're in camp. So if you're doing an overnighter or multi-dayer, essentially finish up your day, change into them, wear them for a few hours as you're having dinner or whatever it may be. Or alternatively, you can wear them while you're sleeping. I quite like sleeping in these while I'm on overnights or multi-dayers because I'm comfortable in it. However, some people do find these a little bit uncomfortable to sleep in, and if it ends up compromising your sleep, well, we don't really want that. But they're the two options. When you're wearing them hiking, there's nothing wrong with wearing them hiking, though they probably won't make a massive difference. Some hikers just like the feeling of having that compression and like the feeling of that, and some hikers feel comfortable with it. Also, some people who do have sort of sore, achy knees sometimes feel a bit more comfortable just having pressure on that area, similar to wearing like a knee sleeve or whatever it may be. But realistically, it's not going to make a massive difference. Typically, what I would recommend is, the only time I would really say it's going to make a genuine difference if you're actually on the trail, is in cold weather hikes where the weather is pretty chilly and you're doing lots of stopping and starting. So it's not like you're moving quite a bit, but you stop, start, stop, start. So you might be doing lots of photography, or you may be with a group with lots of different speeds and paces. We need to keep up with the group or whatever it may be. Because in that situation, the tights will kind of keep the circulation going a little bit more, keep you a little bit more warmer in all those stops. Now, if you are a hiker who's looking into this to use, typically what we want to be looking at is we want to make sure we get sports compression garments. So we're not talking about like hospital grade compression tights or airplane socks or whatever it may be, just for the fact that sometimes those things they're not quite as comfortable to wear for longer periods of time. We kind of want sports compression garments. And if you can find something that has the word recovery in it, even better. There's a million and one brands out there. You can literally just go into Google, go into Amazon, and just type it in sports, compression, recovery, garments, see what works for you. Or alternatively, you can go down a local sporting goods store. A lot of them will have these, and they can be a good option. But ultimately, if you are looking for an easy thing, which can sometimes help your recovery, help your legs feel good on multi-dayers, sports compression, tights, or socks can be really, really good. And it can be a really nice addition into a hiking pack. So hopefully that answers that question. And yeah, typically just wearing them for recovery can go a long way. Next up, let's talk about pacing on hikes. Now, the question that I got sent through for this was, do you have any recommendations or strategies for pacing and speed when I'm hiking? If so, what should I be aiming for to help me through long days? Now, when it comes down to it, understanding and mastering pacing can be one of the most beneficial skills for your hiking. Many hikers out there run into the issues of they'll be hike all day and they'll get really, really out of breath when they hit up hills. Or they'll find that on the longer days, if they're stringing together lots of hours, by the end of the day or three quarters through the day, they're just running out of energy. Or they'll find that their legs are getting heavy or burning when they're going lots of up and down on elevation. These three things I hear all the time for hikers. And there's lots of things you can do which can make a difference to these things. You can train, you can fuel, you can do a bunch of other things. But pacing is a really, 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 really useful skill to practice, which can make a very big difference in all of these things. Now, the idea behind pacing is essentially we just want to go at a speed or intensity when we are hiking, which is energy efficient. Meaning, for every single step we're going, it's going to be using less of our energy reserves. It's going to feel a little bit easier. So, over the minutes, over the hours, over even the days and weeks of hiking, we use less energy and are a bit more fresh. Very, very simple. Now, to understand efficient pacing for hikers and what we want to be aiming for, we need to have a little bit of a science lesson and we need to talk about energy systems and essentially the systems in the body which our body uses to produce energy. Now, essentially, when we're talking about energy systems, in our body, we really have two main divisions of energy systems. And you may have heard of these before: aerobic energy systems and anaerobic energy systems. Now, our aerobic energy system, it essentially produces energy while using oxygen as part of the process. Now, this particular energy system is designed for long duration activity. It's designed to go for long periods of time and just go and go and go. This particular energy system is very energy efficient, meaning for every unit of fuel that we use, we're getting lots and lots and lots of energy out of it. On top of that, it doesn't really have any waste products associated with it. We just get a bit hot through the process and heat, but there's nothing really associated with the energy we're producing, which is considered waste. Now, tricky thing with this drawback for the aerobic energy system, it's slow to produce energy. So it essentially it's very, very efficient, but it sacrifices speed for efficiency. So therefore, it is suited for periods of exercise where we don't need energy quickly, but we need energy for sustained periods of time. And this is typically suited for what we call lower intensity exercise. So if we're just walking around or doing more lower intensity stuff. Now, on the flip side, we have our anaerobic energy systems, and there's a couple of different energy systems in here. But essentially, these energy systems are designed to produce energy without using oxygen as part of that process. The idea behind these energy systems is they are designed for short bursts of activity. They are designed for short periods where we need lots of energy quickly. Now, these particular energy systems, they essentially sacrifice efficiency for speed. So what that means is for every unit of fuel we use, we don't get quite as much energy in the process. On top of that, because it is quite quick, these particular energy systems will have what we call waste products, where as we're producing energy, we have other things that build up in the body, which over time, as they accumulate, can sometimes slow us down or whatever may be. Now, the whole idea around these anaerobic energy systems are they are fast. They are when we need energy quickly and they're designed for high intensity exercise, short bursts of high intensity exercise. Now, as a general rule of thumb, as a hiker, what we want to be thinking about when we're thinking about pacing, when we're thinking about efficiency, when we're thinking about minimizing fatigue, we want to be thinking about predominantly and as much as possible sticking to our aerobic energy systems while hiking. Because the idea around this is that is what these are designed for. They're very, very energy efficient and they can just go and go and go without a huge amount of fatigue. Alternatively, if we are going at a pace where you know what, that aerobic energy system can't quite keep up, we're pushing at a pace and pushing at an intensity where this is just too slow to get all our energy from. So then we end up relying on these anaerobic energy systems more and more and more. Well, this is a sign where it will accumulate more fatigue. Simple as that. The more we use these anaerobic energy systems on the trail, the more energy we will use, the more fuel we will use, the more fatigue will build up over time. So ultimately, general rule of thumb, when we're looking at pacing, we want to go at a pace where we can be very confident we're using this mostly. So how do we do this? Well, lots and lots of different ways of going about this. People will use heart rate zones or whatever it may be, and that definitely works. For me, I think the most simple way of looking at this is using a measure of breathing and essentially just judging how your breathing can often line up with these energy systems. It's not perfect, but it's pretty close. General rule of thumb is if you are going at a pace where you can constantly breathe in and out through your nose, that means you're going to be predominantly using that aerobic energy system. Alternatively, if you're going at a pace where you can't sustain that nose breathing and you're getting huffed and puffed in between breaths, then you probably won't be all anaerobic, but that'll be getting more and more contribution. Now, some people do have issues with their nose. Maybe they have small noses, maybe they're in the middle of winter and it gets all runny or whatever it may be. So if nose breathing doesn't quite work for you, then you can also do what's called conversational pace. So essentially going at a pace where you can happily carry a conversation without getting huffed and puffed in between words. So ultimately, if we can stick to those two things throughout our hiking, not just on the flats, not just on the easy sections, but if you can do this on the hills and the tricky sections as well, the more and more and more we can stick to this, the more energy efficient we're going to be. And that's kind of the pacing we want to look at. Now, the one big drawback for this type of thing is it can be tricky at first because you might do this walking on the flat and you're like, okay, this is fine, this is easy. But then you hit a hill and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to maintain this? I just get huffed and puffed straight away. And that can be pretty tricky. So ultimately, with this type of thing, you do need to practice it. You do need to develop it. And if you can practice this over time, it'll get easier and easier, and then you'll be able to apply it as much as you can. So essentially, when we're hiking, I definitely recommend practicing this as much as you can. You know, if you're going on hills, slow the speed down and go at a pace where you can sustain this. If you're getting huffed and puffed and you're getting out of breath, then pull the pace back until you can sustain that. It will be tough at first, but over time it will get easier. Now, when you're doing your training, practice this during your lower intensity cardio. So if you're doing pack walking or cycling, practice this. You don't have to do this all the time if you are intentionally going to higher intensity sessions like interval training or something like that. We don't need to be doing this, but when we're doing our low intensity sessions, this can be good to practice. On top of that, if you're doing hill sessions or stair sessions or step sessions, this can be a good place to practice this because you can literally practice sustaining this pace, sustaining this speed when we're going up on elevation, which makes it very much easier when we're actually hiking. And then at life, just practice this when you have opportunities. If you're going upstairs, if you're going up hills, just practice this here and there. The more and more you can practice this, the more you can apply it, the better it's going to be. And then ultimately coming back to the original question of, okay, what's the best pace we want to go to? Once you practice and develop this, the more and more and more you can stick to this during your hiking, the more efficient it's going to be. That's kind of our best pacing. It may not always be possible. We may not be able to do this in 100% of the time, but the more and more you can lean on this, the better it's going to be, the less fatigue is going to accumulate, the longer you can go before you get tired. Very, very simple, but it definitely does go a long way. So, with that being said, that is that. And those are the questions that have been had sent through. So at this stage, it looks like nothing's really come through live, which is easy enough. So I might wrap things up there. I've got a very, very busy day ahead, and I'm going to work through a few things. So as I always say with these streams, if anyone does have any questions they would like covered in the future, feel free to send them over. I'm happy to cover anything you want. But with that being said, for anyone watching, I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you got a little bit out of it. And